3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Brute Strength Podcast, where we explore strategies for training, competing, and well-being shared through experiences from some of the sharpest minds in the fitness space. Now, welcome your host, Micah Shoemaker.
So I think we should start with, to give people some context of how we met, because I think that's a rather interesting story.
It is.
And we'll fast forward. When I met you at the MAC this year, so the MAC was a semifinal, obviously, and it was the second week of semis.
Yeah, was it the MAC or Syndicate?
No, I wasn't at Syndicate. I was at MAC.
Oh, it was all a blur to me.
Because that's where Dallin was.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so I came to the MAC, and Dex, which is our mutual friend, how we met, was
unfortunate.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for Dex. But he was like, "Hey, like we need to go to this party thing," and by party thing, it really wasn't a party. It was just more like 8 people sitting around a campfire,
right?
And whatever. So I was like, all right, whatever. Meet the people, shake the hands, kiss the babies, do the things. And I remember walking in, and there's all these people around the campfire, and
For context, we're not in the backwoods. We're literally at the outside of like the Holiday Inn or whatever this was.
Yeah, but I'm trying to play the story up. It sounds like we're in Tennessee. We're in the we're in the backwoods of America.
Right. Yeah, we're behind Rich Froney's barn.
Yeah, Rich Froney's barn, petting his bison.
I'm just
mashing his beans that he grows on stalks out there.
It's perfect.
Anyways, so some people have had a lot to drink. I was completely sober, so it's always more fun, I think, when you're completely sober and you're dealing with people that are just have had a few Trulies, had a few White Claws. So go in, and what I quickly noticed about the situation was that like there was, just like every social situation, there is a clear hierarchical. That was a big word.
That was good.
Pecking order. There's a clear hierarchical pecking order. And so that's when I met Christine for the first time, lovely person. And I met all the people from the MAC. And I just assumed that like you were from their gym, because that's what I got out of this whole like conversation with them, is that these people all came down from 12 Laborers, which I didn't even realize. I just figured it was like an event team, like, CrossFit sent an event team and poof, there goes the MAC.
Right.
Not the case. So, anywho, and I quickly came to understand that you and I have the same 13-year-old sense of humor.
100%.
And I was like, man, that's unique that, as a grown man, you can still have a 13-year-old sense of humor. And even to a degree, this like, I would call this Michael Scott sense of humor. Like the need to say, that's what she said after any good one-liner.
Always.
So from there, we chatted, and I was like, hey, there's this thing called the 205 Throwdown that we're hosting, throwing, whatever, in Birmingham. You live in Maryland, so we should figure out how to get you to come down. Because Brandon was shooting pictures for the MAC, and really not just any pictures. I mean, he was shooting the only pictures that were getting posted on the Instagrams.
Oh, we're gonna go there.
Well,
I mean, it's true.
Yeah, I mean it is. I mean, every photo that was posted was like, oh, that's Brandon's photo. Anywho, there's a reason for that. The cream rises to the top. So I said, hey, you should come do this. This would be fun. And then 2 weeks before the comp here in Birmingham, I get a text from you that's like, hey, are we still doing that thing?
Right.
And I was like, part of me was like, this dude's never going to text me again. And then you text me, and I was like, oh, we're going to do this. And then you come down to Birmingham, and then that's where the story, like the good story, starts, because we get into a lot of things. But it's interesting to me how different people. I'm always fascinated with how people socially interact, and like some people click, right? There's some people that just like, I think, have it, and then you have this connection with them, and there's other people that maybe could take days, years, whatever, and there could be never any type of connection with those people.
It's very true. We had this conversation yesterday about how the ability to interact with humans is almost a dying...
It's lost.
Yeah, it's a dying ability anymore. So people struggle in today's world because everything's through text or something like that. So they meet somebody in person and it's panic mode.
Yeah, it's like even doing. I'll just take it from this standpoint. It's like even doing a podcast in person versus doing a podcast over the internet. It's so different. Right. And it's like, well, you can still see their face, you can still see their body language, but there's just a certain level of like being 5 feet away from someone.
Yeah.
And that social interaction that you have, whether it's, we talked about yesterday, whether it's dating, whether it's whatever, it's like people have so much courage over a FaceTime call, but then you get face to face.
Exactly.
And my God.
Right.
That shit goes out the window.
Yeah. I can reach out and touch you. And that's a problem.
Or get slapped by you.
Yeah. I was saying it nicely. But yeah, I mean, people
have
a lot of courage, on the interwebs.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
I mean, 100%. I mean, the story you said was spot on. I mean, there was a huge gap.
Well,
between,
obviously,
but that was
between that and that. Yeah.
We had the CrossFit Games.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get into that, but prior to getting into that, just for people to understand,
right?
How did you get to the point where you got the gig for Mac? Because I mean, that sounds like a pretty big deal. I mean, I think it is.
Yeah. So for me, I've been in the CrossFit space for a long time. Mm-hmm. Something that has kind of transcended over the years is I have now become, I don't want to say well known, but known in the space as a content creator or photographer. And that wasn't always the case. I've been an affiliate owner this will be my 11th year.
That's crazy.
Owning an affiliate.
I didn't even know that.
In Maryland, yeah. So I've owned an affiliate for 11 years.
I know it's been 11 years.
I'm still very, very active in that affiliate. I still have a lot of one-on-one clients. I still coach a lot of classes. I'm still present in the day-to-day routine there. On top of that, I competed for a long time. I'm far from being an elite athlete. We've gone to regionals a couple times, and we've had some success there in that kind of category. But once that kind of phased out for me, I wanted to find something to do outside of CrossFit, because CrossFit was my job, it was my hobby, it was my life.
Yeah.
And I bought a camera.
Yeah.
And with the purpose of, maybe taking some pictures of the gym here and there for promotional reasons, but mostly taking pictures of everything besides CrossFit. Mm-hmm. I wanted nothing to do with CrossFit. Mm-hmm. And as we can tell, that didn't go so well. But
sucks you back in.
Yeah.
It's like a bad ex-girlfriend.
Right. Through competing, through being an affiliate owner in Maryland, one of the competitions that we did locally all the time was the MAC. And the MAC started as a local 4-person competition. Mm-hmm. And it was the Mid-Atlantic,
CrossFit Challenge?
Well, that's what it changed to. But it's always been the MAC. It just changed the letters.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Right. So it was the Mid-Atlantic Affiliate Challenge. So MAAC. And then once they turned into a semifinal, it's just MACC. Right. Yeah. Fun fact about that.
Didn't know that.
But I've been competing there since 2012, and we do it every year. It's a very, very, very well ran local competition. Luke Espy, who used to run it, pretty much solo back in the day, does a fantastic job. He was on the 12 Labors team and competed, went to the games a number of times. Him and I were really good acquaintances just through owning gyms and just being in that similar mind space, and competing for a long time. And then along the road, I don't know what year it was, but Wilson kind of came into the picture and started taking over when Luke kind of went away, and I think he went into the military. And through that, just the relationship stayed tight, and through being a part of that community and part of that process for so long, when they had that opportunity to become, a semifinal, and they knew that I had kind of morphed into a photographer, I guess, through whatever way that we want to tell that story. He reached out and had me shoot the local version of the Mac, which they run every year, called Mac Fest, and that went well. And then I came down as one of the head photographers of the semis this year. So
It's interesting about CrossFit because there aren't many, we'll call them avenues, I would say, that you can select to go down in life, that you can do it for a job, a hobby, a sport, like
100%.
You know what I'm saying? CrossFit's very unique in that,
100%.
right? You can own an affiliate. Okay, now you're an owner. You can be a hobbyist in the sense of, well, lots of things. You could photograph it. You could videograph it. You could compete as a hobbyist. But then at the top level, you could do it for a job in the sports sense, right? It's really, you could work for CrossFit HQ. It's really interesting to me. When you were talking, I was like, man, what other things in life have that many different avenues that you could go down? And there really just aren't that many. I mean, I guess you could say really any sport, but it's like, not really.
Right.
It's like this one's because you can't own an NFL box, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just really interesting to me.
100%. I think we're in a very lucky time with that, in the sense of, the sport's been around for a long time, but it is still new.
I mean, yeah, like it has and it hasn't.
Right. I mean, it just hasn't. I think we're in the process of seeing it, but it just hasn't taken off to the point where it's at an NFL. If you're in a position like me, you, and many others are, and it takes off to that, well,
yeah,
the person that comes in and tries to do it in 2028 may have a lot harder time.
Well, and I think that's and I've said this on the podcast so many times, like that's one of the really cool things about CrossFit right now is the barrier to entry, and I think that's what you're getting at, is pretty
100%.
darn low.
Right.
And I don't mean to, this is gonna sound like I'm shitting on some people, but it's like almost anyone can pick up a camera right now and be like, cool, I'm gonna photograph CrossFitters.
Right.
And I think that it's gonna get to a point, to your statement, that's the barrier of entry, the price of admission, if you will, is much, much higher. And we're already seeing that in the sport.
Right.
Where you can't do your affiliate class, no offense to any affiliates, but like you can't do your affiliate class and make it to the games anymore like you could a decade ago.
Right.
It's just, there's too much fitness to be had
Exactly.
elsewhere in other places that you need. So I think that to me is just really interesting. And I think we're going to see that same thing on more of what you and I do, which is like the creative side as well. And there's going to be a higher barrier of entry, and you're already seeing it, right? With like, and we'll get into this, like you got to shoot for Noble this year, right? At the games, it's like, that's already becoming like, that is considered to be like the top of the top. And maybe you consider like the games team, like the doc team that makes the documentaries. But like, I would say those are pretty like interchangeable, in terms of those being the pinnacle of maybe what you could express creatively in our space.
I think that the creative side of CrossFit is very similar to the fitness side of CrossFit, where it's all inclusive, right? To a degree, it's all inclusive.
Right.
I mean, once again, I am not judging anybody because I was there, and I love the people that live by the fake it till you make it mindset, but there are some poorly educated creators that I have met in the space that somehow get jobs, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, right? Like it's still, everybody rises to the top
100%.
that needs to be there. And when you look around at the games field,
100%.
you can't judge the games You know, the games turn out based off of how people performed in the open.
Totally
You
agree
know,
with that.
and you can't judge who's shooting for what and what content's being put out at the games based off of what's happening earlier in the season. So I think that it's definitely neat because it does provide an opportunity, and it provides a place for people to feel welcome and wholesome and be part of that community and grow and make connections within that space.
Yeah.
And they can either learn and do that, because that's what I did. You know, not too long ago, I was one of these very shit photographers that was, you know, the fake it till you make it kind. And, you know, I just forced myself to have to learn quickly. I'm still very far from being where I want to be. And there's a lot of people that I look up to in that space, but it's, you know, something's working.
Yeah, well, for sure. I mean, I don't think you'd be getting the type of jobs that you're getting if it wasn't. But it's interesting to me that you got into photography to get away from CrossFit in a sense, like to have another avenue.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's many different pathways that we can go down with this conversation, but I have a very addicted mindset. And so that's why CrossFit kind of took over as my thing for a long time.
I get that.
And I got introduced to CrossFit shortly, you know, just a couple years after I got sober. And when that happened, it was kind of my reprieve, I guess you would say. And I couldn't find anything negative in it. If I was overly involved in it, didn't really seem at the time in my early 20s like anything bad could come from it. So
From CrossFit.
right, yeah, you know, it was kind of a healthy addiction kind of thing, is what you can say. And then when photography came about, the reprieve I got from photography was almost, in a sense, like a drug.
That's crazy.
As a business owner, right? And I'm sure that you can relate to this. It's your mind is going all the time.
We talked about it last night. It's like I have a hard time going to sleep at night.
Right. And for some people, and I have conversations with my members about this, and you've probably heard it in many podcasts or having talks with people. Members, that hour of the day in the class is their time to shut their brain off and just focus on them.
Yeah.
But as an affiliate owner, you can't even do that. My brain is never fully involved into a workout when I'm at my own gym doing
100%.
it. I'm waiting for the UPS guy to come in and fuck it up. I'm waiting on the phone to ring. I'm waiting on Susie to ask me if she can get another water because her cap fell off this bottle, you know, while I'm in the middle of my 400th burpee and I'm drooling on myself. You know, I'm always hypersensitive to my surroundings, and that's not really what you want to be doing when you're working out. So I didn't have that. And then when I picked up a camera,
It's just you and the
world shut off.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. And that's, you know, what got me into doing wildlife photography initially, because when you're out doing that and you're waiting for a moment, you have no choice but to be fully engaged, because everything that you're out there spending hours to do happens in a matter of maybe 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And if you missed it because you were fucking checking your Instagram, you know, you're going to hate yourself.
I mean, that's if you got service out there, but
Yeah, true.
That's a different story. You know, a lot of people talk about that, like with hunting.
Yeah.
And I've never been like a hunter. I mean, I've gone hunting.
Yeah.
But it's never been something that I've gotten into and been like, oh my God, I've got to go do it. But people talk about that the same way. It's like you're waiting for this moment, and then you get the moment, and there's just like adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
Of that moment.
100%. I think there's something to be said about just being out in nature.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to get too earthy. I'm not, you know,
Emily
Abbott or anything, but
oh wait, you don't want to talk about the power of your pussy?
I mean, I believe in that. I believe in that, and ladies, let it shine. But for all intents and purposes, I do believe in that, being out and just being around nature and not being around, you know, man-made shit all the time.
Yeah,
it does have healing purposes, and just a way to sit there and just observe for once, instead of always trying to make the wind, you know, just kind of let the wind take you kind of thing, you know.
Like a leaf in the wind.
Yeah, like a leaf in the wind, you know. More of a sailboat.
Yeah, more. Yeah, yeah. There's. That's actually an interesting thought, right? Because a leaf in the wind is merely guided by wherever the wind wants to take it, but a sailboat, there's a purpose and a reason that you're going that direction.
Yeah, exactly. You're still in control.
Yeah.
You're just not in control of how fast you're going there.
That's really good.
Which is something to be said, right? Like you can still keep your sails on where you want to end up and keep your compass pointed in the right way, but
that's good.
Something else greater than you is going to decide how fast you get there.
Yeah, oh yeah. It's interesting though that you chose wildlife, right? Because you talked about like an adrenaline rush, and this is just outsider looking in. Obviously, you'll give me your perspective, but it's like to me, and maybe the waiting game is the adrenaline rush. I don't know, but to me, it's like one of the reasons I love CrossFit, and even granted, I don't love watching regular people work out. No offense to regular people, but they move shittily. They're slow. They can't do things fast. It's just kind of.
Well, it's not a spectacle.
Right. Yeah. But you watch someone.
No offense.
But like you watch someone that moves really well and can do it fast. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah. I'm not going to get the same high going and watching your nephew's soccer game, as
and watching Ronaldo.
Yeah, exactly.
100%. Like
same sport, completely
different experience.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. Right. And I think that's cool. So, but here's the deal though. It's interesting to me that. And I understand you were immersed in CrossFit, you wanted something different, got that.
Right.
But still, it's interesting to me that wildlife was what you chose. It's like, I don't know, go shoot fucking pony races. Like, right? But it's like, why wildlife in particular?
I think to me what happened is I never knew anything about a camera. I knew nothing about photography. And when I would look at photos and all of this stuff, the thing that always just stood out to me is how you were able to document these interactions with these animals that you would never see
ever,
right?
They'll eat you.
Me and my good friend Nick, who I do a lot of wildlife stuff with, we talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
Until we decided to start doing this stuff, I had never seen an owl in my life, right? Like I've never seen an owl.
Right.
I've seen 15 different species of owls now, and I've shot all of them, and it's like I've been able to watch and observe these things that are so close to home that everybody takes for granted driving past on a daily basis. You're driving through a park and there's a whole fucking world out there
you don't even think about
you don't even know, and
yeah, that's dope.
It's just it's the ability to see and be able to make something beautiful and art out of an image from something that you can't control. If I'm watching a workout and I know that Rich Froning's getting ready to do squat snatches, right? Okay, cool. I can set up and prepare for Rich Froning to do a squat snatch. But if I have, a wolf out in
completely
a field,
unpredictable.
I have no fucking clue what that thing's going to do.
Yeah.
I don't know where it's going. I don't know what it's about to do. I don't know if it's going to hunt something, lay down, run at me. I have no clue. And so the reward is so much better. It's like watching a great movie for the first time,
Right.
And just not having any idea what was going to happen. And then you get back and look at your pictures and be like, no shit. We've had this conversation. The process of shooting CrossFit, the act of shooting it,
it's boring
to me, I don't find it enjoyable.
Yeah, boring
to be out there during an event and shooting a picture, I mean, God, I may get criticized for this, but it's not fun. I know what this shit looks like, right? I've lived in this world for a long time now. I have a ton of people in my life, and I know a ton of these athletes. It's not impressive to me for you to be able to do a fucking legless rope climb.
Yeah.
I like to be able to then come back, see the footage, and go, oh, I can make that look cool.
Right.
Right? It's the opposite with wildlife photography, because you can't over-process a wildlife image, right? We talked about this. Like, I can't make this really beautiful white wolf look fucking yellow, right? Or it looks really cool with, this preset that I've made. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
It's the opposite. The thrill is being out there
And
in the
taking
moment.
the shot.
Right. And then when you get back, it's just kind of like, all right, awesome, I got it. It's the opposite in CrossFit, though.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, like, the the beauty lies in the eye of the beholder, right? It's always, and we've talked about this, it's like you can show 10 people an image and 10 people can have, create their own story about that image.
Yes.
And I think there's something powerful and even palpable about that, because you are, as humans, we're going to insert ourselves into that story. We're going to insert our perspective based upon our own experiences, based upon our own faults, based upon our own insecurities. I mean, all these things go into just how we perceive something. And I think that's really fascinating to me, because you have people from all different types and walks of life. And then, and this just isn't about pictures or creatives. This is more just about humans and psychology, and how I think I'm very fascinated with this, how we go about interpreting things. And I've said this on podcasts before. It's like we tend to question all of our beliefs except the ones that we really believe in,
Right.
and those we never think to question.
Exactly.
And I feel like it's really powerful, but it's also really scary, right? Because it's like, why do I believe the things that I do, and why do they drive me to do the things that in turn I choose to do? And I think, for like, take CrossFit for example, it's like, well, if let's say you grew up, maybe your parents work out, maybe they didn't, but let's say your friends worked out. It's your that disposition, and you being introduced into that is probably going to lead you down a path of, let's say, doing CrossFit or in a box somewhere. And it's like, when do we stop and think to ask, like, why am I doing this? Or when do we stop to ask and say, like, does this actually bring me any type of fulfillment or joy? Or am I just doing it because I'm just a product of my environment? And to an extent, I hate to say it, we're all that.
100%.
Like, there is no reversing that.
100%.
Completely. There's always going to be that. And I've found for myself, life is just about a series of choices that you're either going further away or closer to those dispositions.
Right.
Whether that's the disposition of addiction, whether that's the disposition of anger, whether that's the disposition of, we can go into a million different scenarios that people are exposed to, I think, as young adults and kids, that ultimately drive some of those things. And
Exactly.
it's
I mean, going back to
really
the sailboat analogy, right? Like you just have to focus on the controllables.
Yeah.
If you choose a very shitty first mate on that boat, or you choose a very shitty crew, all right, you're probably going to get lost. But if you surround yourself and you put the people on that boat who are a little bit better than you,
100%,
who know a little bit more than you, you're probably going to get there faster than most. And that's kind of the ability that I think people don't want to look at. It's the thing that people don't want to see all the time. Is that if you're looking at it from a creative standpoint, if you're looking at it from an athletic standpoint, is that too many people want to protect their own ego.
We had this conversation yesterday.
Yeah, too many people
crazy.
want to protect their own ego. We just had this conversation last weekend with one of your athletes.
Oh yeah,
right?
We did.
Where it's that you can't stand the almost ego hit that happens when you're around people better than you every single day,
right?
Because you're too used to being the best. You're too used to being an alpha in a room where it was never a struggle for you to become an alpha. But can you rise and still be that person in a room full of people where you actually have to prove yourself? And I think that's where that's what makes or breaks it, right? That's what takes the people like in the creative world that we were talking about that are just okay being down there shooting for, lollipop thumb tape, or whatever brand hired them to take a couple photos of the, God, I'm going to get fucking canceled after this, of whatever photo of
Bro, I've been going a year and a half now, and I've said some terrible things.
I mean, it's cool, but yeah, whoever hired you from said thumb tape company to take a picture of the 85th finisher in the a Masters division at the CrossFit Games, and then what is going to make you motivated through that opportunity, which is still a wonderful opportunity to try to do better the next year.
Well, yeah, and like I want to be clear, it's not the issue of taking the picture for the thumb tape people, because that's not it. They're fine people. They're good people. The issue is when, in my opinion, is when you look at that opportunity, and this is where like we can get into like the professionalization of the sport and its sponsors and its blah, 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 is when you don't use that opportunity to continue to advance to the next one. It's like, you know, it's like when you're, you know, the best example I can give is like Monopoly, right?
Well, it's complacency. It's just like everything. Once you become complacent with what you're doing, you grow or die. That's 100%. Essentially where we're at.
And the Monopoly example is this. It's like once you buy, you know, the 2 of the kind or 3 of the kind, and then you get some, you know, houses and well, it's good. But then you get some apartments and then you, right. And then you get, right. And then that's when you start bankrupting people.
Exactly.
Right. But
one roll of the dice and you're donezo.
But you're either killing or you're being killed.
Yeah.
And it's like you're either growing or you're dying. And I struggle sometimes because it's like I realize that life is not as black and white as we would all like to make it. It really is this 50 shades of gray, right? Because like there's so many nuances, and those nuances aren't really life itself. The nuances are the interpretations and how the people interact with those experiences. Those are the nuances.
Exactly.
So we would be wise to understand that delineation. However, this is the point that I think is really worth making, is like when it comes to those things, I think it's, and this is what I try to tell myself all the time, is, you know, you really have a choice in the moment. You really have the choice to, and this is where sometimes I struggle a lot, because, you know, I'll hear people talk about something and I'm just like, oh, fuck, you don't get it. But I'm like, man, let me try to be empathetic and understand where this person is coming from. Maybe they have a set of limiting beliefs that's holding them back from where it is that they want to go, or don't think they can go, or, right? And oftentimes when you start finding those things, it's like someone's been screwed or someone's been whatevered. And that lens that they've now adapted their life upon is literally, quite frankly, the ceiling in which their growth will halt.
100%.
And I see it all the time.
Yeah. Self-belief is a very important trait in anything that you're trying to pursue.
Yeah.
And I think that many people just reach out in different avenues to try to get that, right? There's so many people that you and I know, there's so many people that I've seen who they come across as arrogant or cocky or any of those things, when in reality they're very insecure. They're just they just have nobody else to pump them up, so they're pumping themselves up. Because and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's
not. And I think people get judged and mislabeled all the time for that, right? Because it's really strange. If you look at this in perspective of the world, we live in a world where people go, love yourself, right? Love yourself first. You need to love yourself. But then you start loving yourself and they're like, ooh, you're loving yourself a little too much now, you know? Love yourself a little less, you know, because now you're starting to bother me. You know, it's like the whole people want you to succeed, just not further than where they are.
Yeah.
And that's why you have to be comfortable in order to become extremely successful or to get through the thing, is that you have to be willing to break through those uncomfortable barriers of judgment by people that you once admired. That is the thing, is that there's instances just in the last year that you and I've talked about in detail, which I'm not going to go into, but where there was people that I admired, and then through whatever interaction or whatever jealousy took place, their view of me changed because I was continuing to succeed past where they had been in said environment for a long time. And it's saddening, because all you really are looking to do is to inspire and do your job. And you never want to tailor back yourself in order to make somebody else comfortable. And you have to be okay understanding that it's going to make people uncomfortable when you get there.
That's good.
And I've always been okay with that. It took me a very, very long time. If I'm being vulnerable, it took me a very long time. I've had many nights where I've stayed awake and been very, very flustered by the fact that I've pissed somebody off.
For sure.
By just succeeding.
Yeah.
And you go, well, how can I make this better? How can I make this person feel comfortable again? And man, there's not really anything you can do. That's a them problem. It's not a you problem. The only thing that I've done now is that I've continued to try to help people that are just getting started in the space, because I am far from a veteran in this. I've only been doing this for a couple years. I've had a fast track success, but I am 100% about helping other people do the same. And there are limiting factors, and it has not a lot to do with camera talent. That is definitely a thing. But it has to do with how well you can interact and how well you can communicate and meet new people and put yourself out there. And networking is 100% the key to success in any business. And I don't think that a lot of people want to know. It's a crazy thing to think about, right? But imagine how some of the best baseball players or best football players in the world probably never made it out of their hometowns. Because they don't know enough people to get there, or they were in unfortunate circumstances. The best of the best. I mean, there's probably people that have never picked up a camera before that would just blow us all out of the water.
Oh, I always say this, that the best CrossFitters, let me say it this way, we haven't seen the best CrossFitters yet.
Right.
Because it's a money thing. It's like Saquon Barkley can go make millions upon millions upon millions upon millions, and the best CrossFitter in the world makes, $310K at the CrossFit Games.
Right.
It's like,
it's laughable.
That's
in
a
comparison.
Joke.
Right.
That's a joke when he gets a $40 million signing bonus.
100%. I agree. It's insane to think, and I think that the sport's going in the right direction. I think it'll continue to get to that point. Without bringing on big sponsorship money, which is what's needed in order to get that, because we talked about it. At the end of the day, it is a spectacle. It is something that you want to watch, and without people watching it, you don't have any money,
Right.
So
which is always why I'm like, what the fuck, when CrossFit decides to put the worst fucking event on CBS, because I'm like, no one gives a fuck about crossover double unders, especially when people can't do them.
Yeah, that was, I think there was a lot of mixed opinions on that. I mean, from the belief system of CrossFit, right, which we talked about, it's at its roots. But CrossFit also at its roots had no fucking money, right? So at some point in time, you have to evolve.
Yeah.
You have to go, okay, let's not make these athletes look absolutely ridiculous
100%.
on TV in front of an avenue of people that we're supposed to be promoting to. Like, hey, these are the best people at it, and they can't even do it.
So you should go sign up to your local affiliate.
Go sign up for your local affiliate where you can't do it too. And it just makes no sense. It makes no sense. I mean, but the idea is pure. The idea was pure. The people were not. That's.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but we won't get into that. So, the thing that I was, fascinated with is specifically about your story that it just really interests me was, and you mentioned about the best players in the world. Some baseball players, some football players never make it out of their hometowns. I'm interested in how good you are at so many things, not just photography, but right. You were at one point, pretty decent CrossFitter, and then speaking of baseball, you played baseball.
Man, I've spent time thinking about that, right? And it's a lot of genetic stuff, right? But there's
like most things are in life.
Genetics play a huge role in a lot of those things, and I attribute a lot of that to my father. My father was a fantastic athlete. My father played baseball at the highest level that you could play baseball, and he was a multi-sport, athlete growing up, and he was fantastic. Being able to find the way to unlock those things, I don't always think is healthy. And a lot of it is the sense of I have that addictive personality, which we've talked about. And when you use that to good things, you get good at them, when you use it towards negative things, it ruins your life. And I'm not saying that even the good things are healthy, because it creates no balance. And that's sometimes what happened. Here's a brief story. Yes, I grew up playing baseball. I played baseball my whole entire life. I didn't realize that I was good at baseball until I got a coach that believed in me. And then once that coach believed in me and I had confidence outside of me trying to find it as myself as 12 years old,
Yeah, it's
right?
tough.
I excelled. I took off as a baseball player because I knew then there was some external validation, which at times, people need. I've learned that
I agree with that.
my love language is words of affirmation.
Yeah.
I need somebody to tell me you're proud of me. I need
Yeah.
somebody to tell me that, okay, I'm doing well. And it's not a great trait, but once you recognize it, you then realize where the power lies.
Right.
But my parents had bought a pool table, and we had a pool table in our basement. Okay. One day, I watched a movie, Pool Hall Junkies, back in the day. It was awesome. It had Christopher Walken in it. It's fantastic. And I was like, man, I have a pool table. Let me see if I can get good at pool. Man, if any of my high school friends listen to this, they will probably chuckle. I would come home from school, I would lock myself in the basement, and I would just play pool. And then it got to the point where we would go out and we were drinking. We all had fake IDs. We'd go to bars with no money because we weren't working, right? And I would hustle people in pool at the bar in order to pay our tab. And one night I won $500 at a local bar by beating this guy left-handed with a broomstick. And and then there's always moments in life too where you're humbled by those things. My dad never spoke a lot about his accolades and stuff with other things, but my dad now he's much older. My parents didn't have me until they were in their early 40s. So my dad lives up in Pennsylvania, and I go up to visit him. A few years after this, I had graduated, I'd gotten sober, and I was like maybe like 22, 23, but I was still like playing pool every now and again. Like I can pick up a pool cue and be pretty good. And my dad's like, hey, well, we got at the clubhouse, there's a pool table. Do you want to go play? And I was like, yeah, sure, man. I'm like, Dad, I don't think you understand though.
I'm pretty good.
Like, I'm going to fuck you up, right? My dad ran the table on me for 7 games in a row. I never got a shot. And I sat there with my jaw dropped and goes, where the fuck did this come from? And he goes, son, your grandfather owned a pool hall. And I never met my grandfather, so I didn't know any of this. And he goes, your grandfather owned a pool hall for years. I grew up in a pool hall. And I was like, fuck, what a humbling experience, right? It's one of those things where you think you're good and you just get smacked in the face. And it's awesome, right? In retrospect, when you look back at those things, you're like, man, there's so much room for me to grow. Yeah. But yeah, I playing baseball growing up. I played through high school. We had a very good high school team. In the culture and the environment around that is what led to all of us having success. There was a number of people, not just through baseball, but through all of us who had scholarship opportunities and took those on.
We were just reading that comment or tweet or whatever by Stephen A. yesterday about how Tom Brady took and not just Tom Brady, but several top-level elite, best of their sport, possibly best of a generation, you could say, took winners' cuts.
100%.
To create a better team atmosphere. Now, CrossFit is not a team sport, obviously, unless you own a team, but nevertheless, if, and we said it, if you want to go far, you got to go together. And I think despite individual elite CrossFit not being an individual sport, or team sport rather, it still is in a lot of ways. I see it now more than ever. It's like, and now that I've got way more into coaching over the past several years, I see it more than ever. It's the guys and gals that have the best teams and the best support systems typically find a way to do the best.
Right. And I think, man, you see it in every sport, right? And it's wherever you have set your ceiling.
Yeah.
And that is what it's almost sad to watch. And this is just me being brutally honest in the CrossFit space. And I know that there's a lot of people, once again, who probably disagree with this, or they might agree with it and they just don't want to hear it. But there's so many people that are just happy to make it to the games.
Oh, yeah.
They get to the games and they're like, oh, I'm here. Fuck it. I get my free shit. I get my little sign. I get the stuff. I can put it in my Instagram bio. which I mean, I'm not going to throw you back under the
Bro, I got
the
a
bus.
lot, dude. There's people that still DM me
You
about
got a lot
that.
of heat for that, but I mean, let's be real. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of people that are okay with it. And then you have the people like the Matt Frasers of the world. What keeps you so motivated to continue to fuck people up when you've just been fucking people up all along? And that is like the Michael Jordans, right? And you control and you're still so hungry for this success because you've set your ceiling so high that you're never going to get there. So you stay hungry internally, which is awesome. I mean, those are what makes those competitors and those people so different.
One of
And
a
when you
kind.
think about it in a whole grandiose scheme, is it's amazing to me in the same field you can have someone like that, and then you can have somebody that's just there for an opportunity to show an ass cheek so they can get some sort of Instagram money. And they're on the same field. And this isn't just in this sport.
Oh no, it's not.
You know, it's in every sport. And it's amazing to me, but I mean, okay, cool. You know, you get to see why that is. You know, you see where the rewards are reaped at the end. You know, you get all the success and money and everything from the people that are winning and they're doing the good things.
I agree with that. I mean, I think as you go lower down the pecking order and lower down, like, and what I mean by that is like, so we have the games, pinnacle of the sport, right? And then you have semis, that qualifying stage below the sport, or below the games rather, and you hear it even more so in that, right? Because people, just like you said, are just happy to get there. They're just
Right.
happy to be not competing, but participating.
Right.
And that to me is just a very interesting way of going about life. And to what we've talked about in this podcast, I think a common theme is that I'm just never a person, and never have been, that just does something like half-ass. Like, or like, I just want to do it because I'm in my 20s and have some athletic, like, fuck it, do something else.
Being around the space. I think that some people are okay understanding that they're never going to have an audience greater than the people inside their own gym and the people that are closest around them. And they're okay with that. However, they feel a need to prove themselves at such a high point to those people. And that's why I think that you have people cheating so much in order to get to semis. You know, you have these people doing, which we've all seen, right? Numerous ways of cheating through the qualification process of CrossFit because they're too scared for the lack of validation from the people that they have to go see every day in their gym because they're so much better than them that they can't fathom that they're not competitive in the real world. You know, so then what happens is that they get to that stage and they go, okay, cool, I've proved myself that I'm elite, but I know internally that I don't have what it takes in order to be the best or at the best stage. So you know they go through the motions or they fake an injury or do whatever they need to do so that they can still have the accolades and then
Yeah. I've always said, the reason that I train so hard, and this is true to this day, the reason I train so hard is because to me it's a fucking mindset. Like,
Yeah.
and I know that eventually my body won't allow me to train this hard, and I'm okay with that. But while I can, like, I want to. And because to me, I look at it as fucking mental training. Like,
100%.
and there are too many soft motherfuckers out there that just can't deal with pain. And like
At all.
at all, like you run 99 miles the other direction, and to me, I'm just like, granted, I'm not saying I'm David Goggins level, but I aspire to some of those theologies, if you will,
Right.
because I think it's like life is going to get tough. And I think if you don't ever practice or train that, it's like it's going to be even more mortifying when it happens.
Yeah, it's if you stay in that coddled environment or that coddled mindset, you are not prepared when you get slapped in the face.
Right.
You know, if you're playing a video game, you know, let's relate this to something that you and I are not too far removed from.
Yeah.
Right. If you and I are flying this new FPV drone, okay, in this fucking simulator that it comes with, and we're like, yeah, man, this is great.
We're
like,
crushing
I'm
it.
so good at this. You know, I've only clipped this building 40 times.
But
you know?
I think I can go out
But
and
I'm
clear a
fucking
tree.
crushing it. And then you go outside in the real world and you realize that when you clip the building one time, that FPV drone is gone, right? And you don't get a second life. You don't get a third life. The video game's over, okay? And I think it's very representative of people in the real world, is that they want to stay in this very safe nest. You know, you're in the tree of trust. And then when somebody pushes you the fuck out, you can't fly, you know, because somebody else has been doing it for you for a long time.
Man, that's good.
And it's a very scary thing. And that's why you see so many people in the world that are so sensitive. They're so sensitive because they live behind a fucking computer. Yeah. They live behind a cell phone, and they talk and say whatever they want, whatever's on their mind without any repercussions. And then you walk up to somebody in the mall. Malls aren't a thing anymore. I'm showing my age. You walk up to somebody in fucking Chipotle, right? And you say something that you say in a tweet, and you get smacked the fuck
in the
face. You know, you can't handle it. You're either gonna cry, run, or sue somebody.
Yeah.
You know, like, man, what a fucking world we live in.
It is interesting. And when I had James Fitzgerald on the podcast, something that he said, you know, he said it's because we were talking about some pretty controversial stuff in CrossFit, which for those people listening, you should go fucking listen to that. It's a great podcast. Like, if you really just want to get mind fucked for almost 2 hours.
I mean, what an OG, you know.
Yeah.
I mean,
seriously,
what a great dude, you know. Shout out to him though, for sure. I followed the OPEX or OPT blogs for a long time when I first started
100%.
CrossFit. Yeah.
So he said, you know, it's a shame that, he said, even on this podcast, that we have to feel the need to qualify the things that we say in light of current social climates.
So true.
And he said, you know, this is a public forum, and I mean, granted, it's a little bit private because not every, I mean, you know, 30 people can't, you know, zoom into our conversation right now, but it's going out to, you know, tens of thousands of people, and so in a way it is, and they're getting to listen to what I would consider a long form version of, you know, this dialogue. And here's the interesting thing to me is, you know, I've thought about this a lot. It's like, man, the things that I say, it's like, yes, they're representative of the things I believe. Otherwise, I wouldn't say them. But I've found myself needing at times to qualify the things that I say, or to preface the things that I say, for fear of backlash or whatever, you know, the woke term canceled, right? Yeah. It's like, man, that's a bunch of, you know, and when reality is, I'm, you know, nothing that I say is certainly aimed at someone, nor is it something that is, in my opinion, that someone else's, you know, basically the casualty of someone else, right?
Right.
But what I do think at times is, as humans, instead of being our truest self, and I know it sounds like some kumbaya bullshit, we want to pick an identity off the shelf because it's more widely accepted. So I'll explain this. So instead of, you know, being a dude from Alabama that, yes, has some redneck qualities, but also is, you know, bougie as fuck, and like blending those together because that's just the person I am, I would rather just pick this like identity off the shelf that's already widely accepted by society, because those are the things that will help me get further and accepted, versus truly being my truest self, blending a bunch of different identities, because I'm, at the end of the day, I'm not one identity. I mean, a complete immersion of all these different experiences that I've had in my life,
Right.
and those experiences yield these different identities and these
Yes,
different
so much
people,
different stuff, right?
right?
100%.
And so just to pull something off the shelf as a country boy from Alabama, or um, you know, a city hipster,
Right.
or because those things are wide stream accepted, may not be the best situation for me, yet so many people do it, and I see it all the time. They feel like they have to be this thing to be accepted by these people, and it's like, fuck it, you really don't.
No, I mean, the ability to just be yourself it's a very hard thing to figure out, because that requires knowing who you are,
Yeah.
which requires a lot of work. And knowing who you are and not, just adapting whatever someone has told you you are is it's a hard thing. Going back to the sobriety thing, that's something that really forced me to figure out who the fuck I am.
Yeah.
You go through this point in your life where you're so broken and you're so immersed in drowning every feeling that you possibly have in either drugs or alcohol, and all of a sudden going, I can't do this anymore. I need to do it without that. And then those same feelings, just because you take the drugs out of me doesn't mean that.
You don't have an addictive personality or whatever the case
No,
is.
it doesn't mean that any of the problems go away.
Oh, yeah. That's good.
Like none of my life's problems, none of my ability to not be able to relate and cope with myself or deal with life, none of that shit changes. And then you have two options. You either realize it and you start to work on it, or you go back to the Band-Aid, which is going to fucking kill you, and the Band-Aid being drugs and alcohol. And, thankfully I've chose the other option for, 13 years now, but it really forces you to figure out who you are, man. And there's nothing better. You and I had the conversation with your wife the other day. Nothing forces you to figure out how to interact with humans in uncomfortable situations, as opposed to taking away the blanket, which in most social circumstances is alcohol.
Yeah.
And I know I can't drink, so I had to figure out. I mean, what an uncomfortable conversation, right? I had to figure out how to have interactions with people sober. I had to find a way to still be fun.
Yeah.
I had to find a way to dance and be loose and enjoyable while not drinking or having any drugs. Have sex with somebody for the first time. How easy is that? When you go out and you have a couple drinks and you get all loosey goosey, everything's great. No, hell no. That shit don't work, man. That shit is petrifying, especially when you're so used to doing it the other way for so long.
Yeah.
But good God, learning how to do all of that and encompass all of that and figure out who you are in that process, it is a beautiful thing. It's something that I wish everybody could experience, not through the pain that I had to go through for it, but something could happen to you that makes you have to realize and figure out who you are, because it is beautiful at the end of the day, because you can sit there and you can be exactly the person that you figured out, good or bad, and you can go with it and make changes as it needs. Yes, I'm somebody, as you stated last night, I like to ride the line 100%, but I will do that shit with fucking grace, baby.
We found that out for sure.
And it's cool though. I know that about myself. So when I do that, or I'm being that person and somebody says that to me, it's not, oh fuck, is that not okay? Oh my God, is that not okay? Should I apologize? I'm sorry. It's not that. It's, I know exactly what the fuck I was doing,
Yeah.
and I can own it. And if it was inappropriate, or if I come back and I'm like, man, okay, I crossed the line, you can apologize. But
I'm interested in not necessarily, how to get sober, how to get off drugs. That's the thing. It's, there are programs for that. And I think there's a lot of good that people are doing surrounding that. But I'm more so interested in, after you come off of the drugs, or you come off the alcohol and you're like, all right, I'm not doing this shit anymore. Like what does that process look like? Because I would have to imagine that you get out, and when I say get out, like get out in
of rehab.
social,
Yeah.
and then get out in social environments, and it's like this like disassociation almost with like who you are. Like, I mean, and again, this is me projecting,
Yeah.
right? But I would assume that it would be like, people, there's a fucking psychological thing when people like fucking lose their phone.
Yeah.
Or when people lose their hand.
You're in panic mode.
They literally associate it to the same shit.
Yes. Yeah.
That if you lose your phone in your hand, you deal with, like, it's so fucked up, right? But it's interesting to me because you're, in a way, you're losing an identity.
Yes.
And how do you come back and disassociate with, okay, this was the old Brandon, and then now this new Brandon, I don't really know who that is yet. I'm like creating him, like,
Right. So, first off, because we are in woke world, I will start off by saying I am not a doctor, but
don't listen to my fucking advice.
I worked very heavily in a rehab after I got sober with young adults also getting sober, and
Interesting.
transitionally, that's how I got into CrossFit originally. But the blessing that I had is that I was able to do it when I was young, and I had this realization about myself when I was young, in the sense of I didn't have a lot of things to lose, right?
Yeah,
so I hit
that
rock
makes
bottom.
sense.
I didn't have a family and kids and a house and a great job, all of these things, which, yes, those things will make it a lot easier to move forward with. However, the thing that people don't understand is that you are as sober as you are going to get when you get out of rehab, or after you detox. However you choose to get it out of your system, you are as sober as you are going to get. Like, this is something that people don't realize. If you're addicted to heroin, okay, and I take you and make you not use heroin, and I help you through the detox process to where all of the chemical effects of the heroin are now out of your body. You are completely flushed of it. Your withdrawal symptoms are gone, and we've gotten you through that whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay?
Gotcha.
Why would you ever relapse? Because you don't have a chemical dependency on it anymore. Your body's not craving it every day. We got you past that. Why would you relapse? Because the rate is like 90%.
Holy shit! I didn't know that.
The rate is very high, if not more than that, for the relapse rate.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't necessarily the drugs and the drinking that makes you do it. I mean, yes, there's a chemical dependency at a certain point, but it's because you cannot deal with life. And that's blanket. And that's, you have set yourself up to be in this position where you cannot deal with life on life's terms. You've set yourself up to be that there is no greater power or greater thing better than you.
Wow.
And you have been in control. Wow. And you can't realize how anything could be ever more powerful than you. And so what happens is you have a bad day, or you have something that you haven't been conditioned to handle, and you can't handle it. And without setting up tools, putting the bumpers in the lane per se to keep you on track, you fall into the gutter. And so, yes, what sets you up to be able to succeed is, there's a 12-step programs, and the 12-step process and what that looks like is 100%. It's so pure. It's so pure. And I think that everybody in the world should be doing some sort of 12-step program with just taking out the drinking and drugs. It's how you figure out who you are. It's how you free yourself of all of this burden that weighs you down and makes you make all of these decisions all the time. Past guilt, remorse, bad decisions. Yeah. Everybody's got their deep, dark secrets, right?
For sure.
Being able to own the fact that you need to make amends for those things, take ownership, move on, free yourself per se, so that you can move forward a different person. That is the process in a nutshell as to what it looks like. But for me, all of my friends had to get changed. I had to get a whole new network of people when I got out.
Wow.
And it's understanding that.
Wow.
It's understanding that you cut off ties with these people that you can't be with. You have to change your environment.
Wow.
You have to change all of the stuff that you want to do if you're serious about doing it. And it is for the first part of it. There is this kind of just, you've made a commitment, so let me see if I can push through it. And just like anything, whether you're starting a new diet, whether you're doing 75 hard,
I'm sure the first 3 days are great.
No, I'm saying those are the toughest.
Oh, well, see,
Is because the more time that you've built and put into the bank, right? The more that you've become accustomed to doing it,
it's the sunk cost fallacy.
easier it is, right? The more situations that I go through sober, so that I don't have an excuse to go back. The first time I go through a breakup sober, the first time and I make it through. The first time I go through losing somebody or somebody dying in my family sober. First time I go through leaving a job or being broke or having an argument or somebody making fun of me sober, and I get through it. I start to rid myself of these excuses, because all of a sudden the most recent thing in my life is this relation to a time where I was strong enough to get through it. And you have to realize that most of those times is about having a network around you, which is the whole, encompassing thing of what we're talking about today, is that you have to have a positive network around you, whatever that looks like. And for most people, if they go away to a halfway house, it's because they don't have the ability to build that network themselves. And you have to be able to do it. So that skill set that has allowed me to get to where I am in life came from a fight or flight mode, where I go, okay, I need to be able to network. I need to be able to figure out these like-minded people that I need to surround myself with, because without them, I can't survive. I am not great by myself. I am not a successful human being on my own. If it were up to me and I was doing me things all the time, I would fail. And not only would I fail, but I would fucking do it in the most unprofessional manner ever.
Right.
So if I am a representation of the people that I have allowed to be in my life. And that is the reason that I was able to continue to stay sober, push through that, help other people do the same thing, and now be able to go into different avenues, because I've fine-tuned the selection process of the people that I need to have around me. I see people that are like-minded, they want to grow, they want to push forward. It's the people creating tasks for themselves without somebody else telling them that they have to do the work, right? They wake up in the morning and they go, what can I do today to be better? Those are the people I want to be around. And that's who I try to put my energy into. That's how you and I met. And I put time and energy into that and creating a relationship, because through that, things bloom. Things are able to build. You are able to progress. You can continue on the stairway of life, because without it, you're stuck. You're going the wrong way on an escalator.
Well, and I think the litmus test is people can look at their relationships in their life, to your point, and ask themselves, where was I a year ago with this relationship and where am I now? And if those are the same fucking place, let me tell you, you need to do some deep thinking into some shit, because I can tell you the good relationships, at least the ones that I'll speak for myself, the ones I have in my life that are the good relationships, they progress. And they don't progress yearly, they progress monthly, they progress daily, they progress
they progress through doing the hard thing.
100%.
They progress doing the hard thing through hard conversations, hard choices, things where you surround yourself with somebody who's not just co-signing everything you say all the time. They're going to tell you, hey man, I think what you just did was kind of shitty, or that doesn't look that good, and you having enough respect for those people that you've chosen to have in your life to take that feedback honestly. That's huge, and especially in relationships, because you said it the other day. What is it? The pain we know is so much easier.
So the pain we know is more comfortable than the pain that we don't know.
Exactly.
Thus we stay the same.
Right. How many people are staying in these failed relationships, failed marriages, and using the excuse that it's for the children? I'm sorry if you're somebody listening and you're in that position, but that's not the case. Happiness is the best representation and the best thing that you can teach to anybody else in your life. So by you being happy, by you continuing to grow, that is what's going to allow the people that come after you to do the same thing. And that is the only thing. It's the only thing that creates any sort of success, is by allowing somebody that is in your life to help you by opening up your thought process and willingness to just be wrong. Like, you have to understand that you're going to be wrong, whether or not you believe it or not.
whether or not you believe it or not.
Yeah.
And you know, I think that's like, and this like really goes well into the creative process, or at least the processes that I undergo when I'm creating something. It's like, I want people that I believe in, that I trust, to your point, that I brought into that circle to give me advice. And I'm not asking for 10 people or the world's advice or even Instagram's advice when I post it. At that point, I don't give a shit what you think, because I like it enough to post it. And that's really all that matters to me.
Right.
But in terms of the process leading up to the point where I validated it and said, okay, we're going to push this out, we're going to send it, I care about the people that I've selectively put in my life. And I mean, even yesterday, you know, we're like creating a video, and there is enough, and I think everyone could use more of this, including myself. There's enough humility, because, man, we were even talking about it with the Tom Brady thing, right? Like, in this particular situation, the LeBron situation, right? That, you know, he'll make so much more than any other professional athlete, because all these other greats took a winner's cut to create a better team. But to that point, you know, when we're creating that thing yesterday, and I'm like, hey, take a look at this, see if this looks good. You know, obviously I've been editing it for an hour and a half, this video for an hour and a half now. I'm a little numb to it because I haven't taken a break, right? And what do you think? Okay, well, that transition could be a little bit better. It's a little harsh right there. Okay, cool. Well, this skin tone from this skin tone is a touch off. It's probably about, you know, 10% off from where it needs to be. It could be better. And it's like, you kind of have an opportunity in that moment, right? You can be like, fuck you, what do you know about video?
Exactly.
Like, I don't fucking care what you think. We're fucking sending it. Or, hey, you know what? That's a good point. Let me try something. Does this look better?
Right.
And whether it looked better or it didn't look better is really beside the point. It's really the willingness, in my opinion, to take and receive feedback, and then have the humility, in my estimation, to act upon that feedback.
100%.
And try to get somewhere that is mutually better and mutually further along than where you currently were.
Well, it's the same thing as what you were talking about with the litmus test, right? And it's great because if you look, that's the best thing about posting stuff that you think is good, even when you're new.
Yeah.
Because you post the shit that you think is good, and you're like, and you believe it. If I put you on a fucking lie detector test,
you're like, this
is awesome.
Yeah.
I love this.
Yeah.
This is the best shit I've ever done in my life. And then a year from now, I do the same thing, and you post something and you go, this is the best shit I've ever done in my life. And then I show you the video that you made a year ago, and you go, this is the worst thing I've ever made in my life. You know, that is a true sign of progression. If you're still posting the same fucking video as you were the first year, you know, regardless of where you believe, because in your brain you still believed it was the best, which is awesome. Yeah. That's what you have to do. You know, you're like, this is the best thing I've put out.
Yeah.
But then being able to have time removed from it, and then look at it again and go, wow. You know, it's like the person on a diet, right? I love relating all this to fitness. So that people can
it's
the
easy.
person on the diet that weighs themselves every day and looks in the mirror every day, they never see the difference. And for people in a creative space, you never see it. So you have to see the before and after photo at some point in time.
100%.
You have to see the 2014 photo to the 2022 photo and go, whoa, man, what the fuck was I doing?
I got better at that thing.
Right. You know, you have to be able to see it over the large gaps and not just the day to day. And it's extremely important to do, and it's challenging to do that.
It is, and I think it's challenging because we're, as humans, I was literally having this conversation with an athlete of mine. As humans, we are designed to survive.
Right.
Our brain is responsible for one thing and one thing only. It's to keep us alive.
Right.
Everything else is secondary to that one primary function. And thus, when we encounter stress, and that stress can be emotional, mental, physical, doesn't matter. Those are the things that allow our brain to signal adaptation, to signal the need for growth. And not because it's for the sake of growth and self-improvement and self this and self this and all this rah-rah Tony Robbins shit that I enjoy. But it's not for that. I hate to break it to everyone out there. It's just not. It's so that it can survive. Mm-hmm. And so when you realize that, and you can like biohack that, and I'm putting quotation marks around that, but you realize that seeking out the opportunities that are uncomfortable and that cause some of that stress for the sake of growth and adaptation are good things. Like the fact that you have to push yourself to a point in a workout that's going to hurt beyond like no other is going to create the stress adaptation needed to be fitter, to be stronger, to be whatever. And in relationships, it works the same way with, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it. I think it's a perspective shift over time with uncomfortable conversations, and in a lot of ways, being able to accept and receive feedback.
Right.
To Brandon's point, to people that you've selectively put in your life that have the same goals, aspirations, mindset, values as you do. But I think that's, to me, has been one of the greatest things that I have learned, is that just because it is painful, just because it hurts, doesn't mean that it's categorically bad. Just because I don't like it, just because it might hurt to receive that feedback, doesn't make it bad feedback.
100%. 100%. Yeah. I mean, there's no growth without pain.
Yeah.
There's no growth without pain. That's why it's called growing pains.
Growing pains,
like
right.
It's legitimately, it's a thing.
It's a thing. It's
you know, growth is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's not
right.
fun.
That's right.
And I think that sometimes the fear of the unknown
Sure.
outweighs the want for growth.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
so some people just become extremely complacent.
Yeah.
And I feel for those people, because there's a lot of wonderful, wonderful people in the world that have so much potential, and everybody else sees that in them, but they can't see it in themselves, regardless of how much you show them.
Or tell them, or whatever of them.
Yep. It's very true. It's unfortunate. And I wish it was different, but you know, the world would be a better place if everybody could just grow. But
As rah and cliche as this probably sounds, I mean, and I do believe this at heart. Like, you really do have to want to be great.
you do.
And I don't say that as from like an elitist, like, well, I'm great and you should aspire to that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm very much on the journey with everyone else. Like I'm just trying to be better than I was yesterday, just trying to fucking figure it out. Like, not having my shit together and going, fuck, I got to get better. And I've approached that with this podcast the way that I'll never forget the first time I did a podcast. I had questions and I had a list, and I was like, holy shit, like, I'm just gonna go down this list. It's gonna be great. Worst podcast I ever did in my life.
Right.
And I literally
More like an interview.
I literally look at that a year and a half later, and I'm like, dude, you sound like the biggest fucking douchebag. Like, he gave you like the most golden nugget ever, and you just were like, all right, and question number 23 is, right? And it wasn't that, you know.
Right.
But you get the point. And now I've found that I simply look at their Instagram. I simply listen to some podcasts that they have, if they have previously been on, I'll listen to those, or I'll watch some YouTube videos, and I'll simply create just ideas and thoughts.
Yeah, a direction of where it wants to go.
100%.
And then let it flow wherever it's going to go.
Exactly. And the best thing that I could have ever done is just listen and create that negative space for someone to say what they want, but then really say what they want.
100%.
And just take that time to be curious. And the reality is, being curious is not something I think that you're just born with.
Right.
Because we live in a world where it's, I need it now, I need it yesterday. Like, I've got 28,000 things to do, and that doesn't curate curiosity.
Right.
What curates curiosity is negative space.
Yeah, desire.
Exactly.
Time alone with yourself to think and realize, oh, this is what I need. Exactly. This is where I'm at. How do I get there?
Right.
And then a yearning for it. Because time and emptiness, especially in today's world of instant gratification, creates a yearning. And so if there's a time spent where you actually want something and there's nothing else to distract you from it, and you're just left with it, that's all that's on your mind.
It's that yearning, and then the willingness to take, I think, and Tony Robbins does say this, right, is massive action. I think there's a reason he uses that word massive action. It's like, what's massive action? What's massive action is like,
it's everything in your power.
Right. And what we've been talking about, like, do you get up from somewhere and just fucking move?
Yeah.
Like, are you chasing the dream to go to the CrossFit Games, so you move in with your coach?
Right.
Massive action on both ends.
Right.
Right. So it's like, sometimes that is required in order to get to where you want to get to, because the whole idea, and I always think about this in the creative process, the whole idea is to continue to level up to where the bottleneck keeps going further and further up the bottle.
Right.
Right. And the challenges, I'm not going to call them problems, because someone gave me this delineation between problems and challenges. They said, challenges can be solved with, time or money, time being action, money being, monetary things. Problems are things you cannot solve. Problems are, you've got stage 5 cancer and you're going to die in 2 weeks.
Right.
That's a problem.
Right.
But challenges, the goal for me is always to continue to level up my series series of challenges, right? Like, I don't want the same thing I'm struggling with today to be the same thing I'm struggling with, a year from now. Hopefully I've progressed enough. I've leveled up my skill set enough, and you can do that for free on YouTube, especially if you're a creative.
Very true.
Like, it's, it's out there. Like,
very true.
You have it, right? Or if it's other things where it's maybe more granular, like relationships, it starts with having conversations is typically where it starts.
Exactly.
But it's the willingness to continue to level up those bottlenecks, those challenges, and hopefully the challenge that you're dealing with now is not the challenge you're dealing with in a year from now. Yeah. And that will allow you to ultimately experience new challenges that will allow you to continue to level up and up and up. And I think of it like as Mario Kart. It's or not Mario Kart, but just the game, right? It's like, or really any game in that matter. It's like level 1, the skills you acquire in level 1 are essential and will be used in some way, will be arbitraged in some way in level 2.
Right.
And in level 2, you're going to gain some skills and some knowledge that you're going to use and deploy in level 3. And I feel that way in life as well. It's like the things I'm learning now, I know are not just good for now, but they're good for the next season.
Yeah, they're the roots. You have to have solid roots.
That's right.
Because even though you don't see them in the beautiful tree, they're what's holding it up.
Right.
They're the thing that is holding down the base.
Right.
And the things that you forgot about long ago, but they're the only reason that thing's still standing. I look at that statement of massive action. In my life, I've chosen to kind of look at it from the reverse side than what most people do, right? While everybody likes to believe that if you make these insane changes or that you dive all of your time and energy into something, that you will become successful. And the harsh truth of that is that that's not always the case.
Yeah, it doesn't guarantee
you could dive and put all of your time and energy into something and fail. And that's fucking scary. Whether that be a job, whether that be a relationship, whether you go, I really love this person and I'm going to uproot my life. I'm going to go to them. I know, like, I'm making this true sacrifice. I'm going to tell them exactly how I feel. I'm going to be completely open, honest, and vulnerable with that human. And then they reject it. And then you're left with nothing. So I look at, not nothing, but I look at that statement from the reverse. From, I know that if I do these things, I can set myself up for success. I'm not going to be able to be great without doing these things. However,
it's the barrier of entry.
However, if that failure does happen, because there's a possibility that it might, because I've done these things, it's easier for me to accept it because I know that I did everything to move on. So once the pain, the initial pain is gone from the rejection or the failure, you now can move on because there's no regret. The regret is gone. If you go, oh, I could have done more, you know, then not only did you fail, but now you have a forever, you know, scar and a pain also, you know, man, you know, if I didn't, you know, tear my ankle in the high school state football game, I could have been a pro, you know, like, come on, man, you know, but knowing that I uprooted my life, I chased this dream, I tried to get this goal, I did everything I could, I sold my car to get extra money, I bought all of this camera gear, and I tried to get all of these jobs, and it didn't work out. I go, okay, well, you know, I did it. I did all of it to the best of my ability. I've milked it for everything that I possibly could. Okay, now I just need to get over the initial pain of accepting it, and then I can move on to the next thing. That is something that I think, because I think that everybody that sees that or watches a motivational fucking video thinks that if they do those actions or do those things, that it's guaranteed success. And it's not true. Yes, it will happen, and it makes the possibility of it happening
that much greater,
largely greater. But yeah, there's still a chance that you're going to fail. You know, look at it every year with these people that train for the CrossFit Games, because yes, some of them are not out there to just shake their ass and get Instagram money. Some of them,
this is their job,
are really trying to win. And there can only be one winner. And they're really trying to win, and they sacrifice. So at the end of every season, what is keeping you from having these crazy depression falls is going, I did everything I could.
Right.
I did everything I could. It wasn't enough. I need to try to figure out how I can refine that next year. You know, and that's the only way. It's the only way that you can either, you know, clean yourself off, dust yourself off, you know, and move on so that you can start fresh again. But man, you know, my coach was begging me to go biking 3 times a week. And I was like, you know, I'd rather go eat crumble cookies. You know, and then a bike event comes up, and that's what keeps you from winning a competition. Right. You know, you're going to go, oh, fuck. You know?
100%.
That's just putting it in a very PG term.
Yeah, but it's something that people can understand.
In life, yes, 100%. It, you know, it's something that I wish more of the world could understand over time. I wish that people could take a larger look at themselves, dive within, stop looking for external validation all the time. People could look at how they could better learn who they are, try to figure out where their mistakes are, what their role in things are, become more vulnerable, become better at understanding and accepting failure, understanding that through success you can still help other people and build other people up as well. That if people around you are succeeding, you too are more likely to succeed. And that if you are the only one succeeding and no one else around you is succeeding, then you are more likely to fail because nobody is supporting you. These are the things that I wish for everybody to be able to figure out. And it only takes trial and error. It takes a lot of time. It takes failure. It takes a large amount of work. And I wish and I hope that anybody that even listens to this can just have a brief 10-second pause in their life and go, fuck, am I really doing the things I need to do? Do I really know who I am? You know, what can I do to figure out more of who I am today? You know, I try to do it every day. I find out something new about myself every fucking day. You know, found out that I'm a terrible drone pilot, but not for long. Not for long, motherfucker.
Oh, man. Well, I think that's where we'll pause for today. And I use that word pause because I think round 2 will be looming.
Yes, absolutely.
Because there's multiple items that we didn't get to, but
for sure
we will get to. So, anywho, thanks for doing this.
No
I
problem,
appreciate
buddy.
You.
Absolutely, man.
And yeah, man, we'll do it again very soon.
Appreciate you, man.
Thanks for listening to Brute Strength Podcast. As always, you can head over to brutestrengthtraining.com to connect with us and access the links and resources mentioned in this podcast. That's brutestrengthtraining.com for exclusive content and giveaways just for you, our podcast listeners. Consider subscribing so you never miss out. That's all for this episode. See you next time.